What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Blitz Angle tonight. I am here with Dan Loya, and Dan, that was probably the worst Thursday night football game of the year tonight. I mean that was just a blowout in every single facet of the game. Offense, Ravens defense coming up when they needed them most, and then even in special teams at times, the Ravens were just significantly better tonight. What were your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it was like a long game. It felt like it took a long time to get to halftime. I don't know about you if you felt the same way, but the ending was quick, man. There was like 10 minutes left in the
Really
fourth,
quick.
and I was like, before I know it, was 2 minutes left. I was like, all right. I
Yep.
thought, in my opinion, I thought Miami outplayed them in the first half. They were every bit in that game. Just simple mistakes by the Dolphins. There was fumbles. They missed a field goal in the
Yep.
first quarter. They went for it on 4th and 2. Tua overthrew Achan in the end zone. So Miami was able to drive the ball down the field, but couldn't capitalize and score touchdowns, and they let Baltimore hang around. And it's like a common theme with these games. These past couple primetime games is the better team goes into halftime being outplayed, and they come out of the gates just way better. I thought Baltimore dominated that second half. Scored 14 unanswered points. Lamar on the day, 4 touchdowns, two off play action, and then Derrick Henry came into halftime with only 30 yards.
Yeah, I know
And
that was very frustrating for anybody that had Henry in fantasy or betting.
yeah, but then he finished with 119, so so he
Yeah,
ended off with a good day.
yes, he did. He definitely wound up having a pretty solid day at the end of the box score. The Ravens refused to pull their starters regardless of the score. Those guys are going to play the entire game. But the biggest difference in this one for me is Miami had the ball inside the Ravens 35 five different times, Dan, and they missed a field goal. They didn't convert on fourth down. They got sacked out of it. They had turnovers. Like it was everything. The Dolphins' offensive game plan in the first half, and credit to Mike McDaniel, is it worked very well. They were getting the Ravens on their heels. There were a lot of good play calls mixed in there. And then it was just poor execution from the players, a false start penalty. They got to settle for a
Yeah.
field goal, right? Malik Washington turning the ball over at times. You have Tua just not making the right read. Devon Achane not fully running a wheel route on fourth down. Like they had so many opportunities. It felt like in the first half, and the Ravens' offense was not very good in the first half. It actually makes me a little bit
No.
concerned long term. Right, this Ravens offense, obviously Lamar coming off a hamstring injury, was not going to run as much today, but wound up picking it up a little bit in the second half. What were your thoughts on kind of how the Ravens started this game with Lamar back and healthy for the first time?
Yeah, he looked a little bit rusty, I thought. He missed. I mean, they went three and out the first drive, and then luckily, the Baltimore's defense got that fumble, and then they almost didn't get it. It took them 4 plays to score. What, from 8 yards out? I got to look how many yards away they
Yeah, it
were.
might even be less than that. It was probably like 6 yards out. I had the Ravens defense in a league, so I was hoping he somehow snuck in the end zone, but, it was
Yeah, off
like
the fumble.
6 yards out,
Uh,
Derrick Henry gets stuffed, and then Lamar
yeah,
play
you're like,
action
uh-oh.
touchdown.
Yeah, they almost blew that opportunity, but yeah, they looked rusty in the first half, and just like I said, I thought Miami outplayed them in the first half. They had 10 first downs to 4. Baltimore only had 4 first downs the entire first 2 quarters, and I was like, "Uh-oh, are we on upset alert?" But once again, they came out of the gates out of halftime, and they completely dominated. I was surprised that they didn't have more success running the football in the first half. That's 2 weeks in a row. Miami's defense kind of held up against the run. They played really well against Bijan in Atlanta on Sunday, and then they played well for one half tonight. So, curious where Miami goes with this. But Baltimore, as soon as Lamar settled in, he looked all right tonight, and it's another building block for this Baltimore Ravens team.
Yeah, I really liked what they were able to do in terms of their play action game and Mark Andrews getting back and being a big part of this offense. The tight ends, especially Kohler caught a touchdown. Isaiah Likely had a really good game as well, and obviously Mark Andrews scores 2 touchdowns. So it's when the Ravens are at their best. They're utilizing their tight ends. It wasn't a ton of Zay Flowers today. Obviously, Bateman caught a touchdown, but they were able to utilize their tight ends that worked very well. And with their running game not working in the first half, you kind of saw where this Ravens weakness is on the offensive side of the ball. You slow down that run game. Lamar's legs weren't a big factor tonight. They really can't do much, and that's been the recipe for success about beating these Ravens in the playoffs. Is if you slow down Derrick Henry, right? this Ravens team, you got to rely on the Lamar Jackson and these weapons to get open. It's a way to slow them down and beat them. Sure, they're going to get theirs here and there, and you saw in the first half, right? Miami allowed that big play to Mark Andrews for a touchdown, but besides that, they played really well, and that's one of the least talented defenses in the NFL. But credit to them, they have a lot of veterans on that team. They've been playing very hard the last 2 weeks, and they dominated the Atlanta Falcons. And I'm sure the Falcons are sitting at home right now thinking, how did we let this Dolphins team blow us out last week? Thinking about that. And I was sitting there in the first half thinking that this Miami Dolphins defense, who had one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL entering week 8, right, shut down Bijan Robinson and Derrick Henry in 6 quarters for a combined like
Yeah.
50 yards, which was crazy. So a lot of these vets are trying to get their way out of Miami, is what it feels like, increase their trade stocks and get out of there. But in the second half, it was all Baltimore. They were able to get the ground going. Lamar Jackson play action threw a really nice ball to Zay Flowers in the sideline, but it was their defense for me, and that's been the big X factor for them. Talk to me about that defense and what Baltimore's starting to get from the production side of that unit.
Yeah, I think they're starting to get healthy. Got in my notes here. That's 3 weeks in a row they held the team under 17. The Rams, they held them to 17 a couple weeks ago, 16 last week against Chicago, and then obviously today 6 points. So I think they're first off they're getting healthy. Surprisingly, they had everybody last week again tonight, and they're starting to gel as a unit. That safety they got was it what's his name, Gillian, number 12.
Yeah,
Safety for Baltimore they got from the trade, with the pass rusher here. He's kinda changed their defense, and, I know he's one of the leaders now. He's
that's just the
really good in
Harbaugh brothers.
coverage.
They're giving back. They're giving back.
Yeah. They're working together, huh? Collusion?
Yeah,
Um,
they had two
but
needs they needed, and they both were able to address
yeah, they
them.
safety. Yeah, so I thought overall, Baltimore's defense is starting to gel quickly here, and Roquan looked really good. He made some big plays tonight, but I just think they still need a pass rush. Their best pass rusher on their team is Mike Green, so eventually that might bite them in a like a closer game. But overall, they're holding teams to field goals right now, and that's how they're winning. So as long as
Yeah,
they continue to play well, they're gonna be all right.
yeah, and it feels like they're very turnover opportunistic the past few weeks. They had the big
Yeah,
interception of Caleb Williams last week that set them up for a win, and this week 3 turnovers, a turnover on downs in the red zone. Right, the biggest concern I think. Oh, let me talk about the positives first. They just look a lot better. Kyle Hamilton, the best
yeah,
safety in football. This guy is a Swiss Army knife. Did you see he had like 10 snaps as an edge rusher today? The guy can do
yeah. They line them
everything.
all over.
He
Yeah,
can cover anybody. He can rush off the edge. Like he can do everything at the linebacker position. And also, I think Nate Wiggins and Marlon Humphrey have been really good this year at times. Uh, and it's just been they have a good mix of guys, and they're all healthy right now. The only guy they're missing basically at this point is Matabike, and that's obviously a significant loss for them. But they're starting to make up for it with some of these other guys they got. You're right though; their biggest weakness that's holding them back is the pass rush, right? And this is where it
yeah,
could come back to bite them against a team like potentially Indianapolis, Kansas City, Buffalo, right? Is they don't have that elite pass rush that you kind of need to beat some of the top tier teams in the NFL. But some of the teams that don't match up super well with Lamar Jackson defensively, right? You're going to be able to get away with that. So I think with the Ravens, like their next 4 games, you have 4 teams under 500. Dan, they're 3-5 right now. I really think they're going to be 7-5, and I think the toughest game will be that Cleveland Browns game, which the Browns always give them a little bit of trouble. But I mean, what are your thoughts right now? Is it basically the Ravens division to take back at this point with the Steelers struggling?
man, I'm just still shocked. Like, are they really gonna do this? Are they really gonna go on a run here? I know you've been calling for it for a couple weeks now, and I'm just like, hey, easy, easy. But they had some luck here. They're getting everybody healthy on defense. So I mean, that surprised me. And yeah, and then their schedule's kind of falling into place here. That you look at their teams. They got Minnesota, who's banged up. Cleveland, it's always a divisional rival. The Jets, the Bengals twice. Pittsburgh's falling apart right now. So it's just surprising how this has fallen into place. And what are they? They're 3-5 on the season.
Yeah,
So
three
it's
and five
amazing
now.
if they can do this, man. I like still like they got to play. They put themselves in a hole. They got to dig out of it. But yeah, I mean, if they continue to win, they're gonna get in, I guess, man. It's surprising. But like I look at that stretch to end the year. I know we're getting like way ahead of myself here, but you look at against New England, the last 3 games, New England at Green Bay and at Pittsburgh. Those are gonna be some tough games. So this next couple weeks, you gotta win these. You got
Yeah, I mean, those games are tough, but you gotta think about it, like, this is the Baltimore Ravens we're talking about, a team that was I don't remember how many games specifically they won last year, but they were the 1 seed 2 years ago. Last year, I
Yeah,
think they won between 12 to 14 games, somewhere in that range, right? This is a team that's been really good historically in the regular season. I wouldn't be surprised if they're favored in every game the rest of the year with what they've showed over the past few weeks. I'd have to take a deep dive into it, but Baltimore getting back and getting healthy was always what I saw, and they had a tough schedule to start. It's kind of similar to Kansas City. Is like Kansas City opened the year without Rasheed Rice, saw Baltimore, Detroit, Philadelphia in a 4 game stretch. Like we all knew their record was probably not going to be as good, and they're probably going to pick up momentum. It's the same thing with the Ravens. They saw the Lions, they saw the Chiefs, they saw the Bills, right? They had all these tough games in the early part of their year. The middle part of their schedule was kind of easier, and that's where this team was always going to pick up steam, even if Lamar. Right. This it was the worst case scenario. They were 1-5 at one point and they were missing Lamar
yeah,
Jackson, right? That's as bad as it gets, but they still have the ability to climb out of that because they're an elite team. They have an elite quarterback and they're starting to put things together on the defensive side of the ball, kind of similar to what they did last year in the second half, right? Where they can be that type of unit, right? This is not going to be a normal Ravens defense that is going to be one of the top 10 units in football, but they could be a top 12 to 15 unit, right? Beat bad teams up like they did tonight. And they can also compete against some good teams. They just don't have that pass rush that is going to be an X factor against some of the top tier teams in the NFL. So I think with Baltimore, I think they're the more talented team compared to the Steelers. We know they got some games coming up that are going to be critical. Aaron Rodgers is playing good, but outside of what Rodgers has done, they just don't have a lot of weapons on that offensive side of the ball. I think the Ravens defense will match up well with that. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think if we're both going to be in agreement here, the Ravens are winning the division. Are you going to say it now? Are you going to say it
No,
now?
I'm not gonna say it. No, I'm not gonna
Oh,
say it.
that's crazy.
I'm
That's
not gonna jinx
crazy.
it.
Hey, just
Dude, I don't know,
remember,
man. I don't. There's something I don't know. They're gonna screw up, I think. But
listen,
I look at those last 3 games.
just remember, Dan, I placed this bet when they were 1 and
I
3.
know, I know, I know.
I placed it when they
I
were
think
1
it's
and
been
3 and Lamar gets hurt that they were going to win.
so
This
what?
is
It was
I'm
week
not
four,
I'm not
week three.
abandoning. Yeah, well no, it was
Yeah,
post week 4.
it
So
was
heading
one.
into week 5 I placed it.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So
wild.
so I think we're locking that in, and I'm staying with the Ravens no matter what this
Yeah,
year. But
you
let's
got to.
talk
You got
about
to.
yeah, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins though, Dan. It seems like after a big week against Miami, a really good first half, right? We kind of talked about it with Andrew yesterday. If there's any chance
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel's gone, what they're going to do with Tua. They have so much money tied up in Tua, but there needs to be some major changes with this team. And the biggest thing I notice is that there's just so many accountability, discipline, mental errors on this Miami Dolphins team. And whether or not I think Mike McDaniel does have a little bit of offensive coaching, where I think it's pretty good at times, some of that is starting to add up for this Miami Dolphins team. And it's just amounted to be too much, I think. So, what are your thoughts on what's going to happen in Miami over this season and potentially heading into the future?
Yeah, I think I eventually we all know it's gonna happen. We just don't know when. They're gonna clean house. Obviously they're gonna get rid of their head coach. They should get rid of their GM and just start fresh. It's been a while since that organization has had a reset,
What do
in
you
my
mean, Dan? You
opinion.
don't like signing 30-year-old veterans to the defensive side of the ball to clear up major issues? You don't like that?
No, that's not what I do in Madden. That's not my cup of tea. Sorry, but but yeah, I mean, I got Schefter on a hotline here, so I keep looking at my phone, seeing if anything's gonna happen right before Halloween. Historically, there's been a couple firings on Halloween, the night before Halloween, the night of Halloween. So we'll see if it happens tonight, but I don't know. I don't know, but you know, the offense they played well. It's just simple mistakes, penalties, and that comes down to coaching. And even at the beginning of the game, the first quarter, that was like the most what personality I've seen out of the head coach Mike McDaniel. Because he was
Yeah.
yelling, and that's not his thing. He's more like
He's fed up
calm.
with these guys, dude. He doesn't know what to do
Yeah,
with
and it
them
was just like
anymore.
wow. You
He's
could tell
done.
it's
These aren't his guys anymore, basically.
you could tell it's getting to him. So he's starting to hear the noises. So we'll see where it goes from here. We'll see, but obviously it's gonna be a long year for them.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. I think the interesting part about it with the Dolphins is that, they're a team that's so veteran heavy on their roster right now. Like, they aren't really close to retooling this thing. They've whiffed on draft picks over the past 2 seasons since they were in the playoffs, right? They're not really built like next season to take a step forward. They need to find a way to bring in a new GM, new head
Yeah.
coach, right? Tua Tagovailoa, they're stuck with him because of his contract, right? It's going to be very hard to find another team to even take him and the amount of dead cap that they'll have. They're in a very tough situation with that. So it'd almost be like a Russell Wilson Broncos thing where you basically
Huh.
just eat the dead cap and try to figure out if you can hit on a young quarterback that's really cheap in the draft. But besides that, Tua will probably be the starting quarterback for them next year with a new coach. What I want to see with this roster is them to just get young on the defensive side of the ball. They started to get young on the offensive line, and that's going to help them long term. Jalen Waddle is a good player. They have Tyreek Hill still under contract for next year. Devon Achane, still a good player. I don't think he's going to get traded. Right. So they have good offensive pieces on that side. It's the defense that needs complete retooling. And I think a lot of these veterans like Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, some other names as well, like could be deadline candidates that get moved. And I know
Definitely.
Bradley Chubb looked really good tonight. He's a player that I think a lot of teams will be taking a look at, and I hope like my Kansas City Chiefs maybe make a call and see if he's
Hmm.
available. He looked pretty good tonight, and I think that like a lot of teams look at the Dolphins and see a lot of veterans on there that haven't really performed super well, but bring that veteran presence and in potentially a smaller role could make a bigger impact on an already good defense. So they have some value to that there, and they just got to find a way to get younger, man. That's the biggest thing with Miami right now. A new reset at head coach, GM, and they need to find a way to get younger on that defensive side of the ball because they're one of the teams that are just stuck in mediocrity right now. And if they don't change some stuff up, it's going to be pretty similar. But unfortunately for them, it'll be with Tua Tagovailoa at the helm this year, next year, wherever it is. It'll be Tua that's starting because of the contract that they gave him. I think it was last offseason, the amount of money they paid him. Mike McDaniel, on the other hand, I think he's gone. I'm not sure if he lasts the entire year just based on the discipline penalties, even though I think he's a good enough coach to last at the end of the year. And I'll be interested to see. I
Yeah.
think like Philadelphia would be an interesting team you look at in the offseason who Kevin Patullo hasn't super impressed with. Could pick up Mike McDaniel, and I think that'd be a good fit. So we'll kind of see what happens with him. He's going to be a coveted offensive coach, that's for sure. Are there any teams that kind of jump off the page for you that Mike McDaniel makes sense for?
Yeah, well, I think I'm just trying to think of like a fit. I don't think he would just randomly go to the Eagles. I would think he would go to someone with like Shanahan's tree.
Well, the
Or like
Eagles don't really
they
have like a tree. They just kind of like
yeah,
rotate
like
different
mhm.
philosophies in there.
So like my thinking is like if Robert Saleh gets another head coaching gig, I think he would be a great fit for offensive coordinator for
I saw
whoever team.
somebody that was
Yeah.
like a Browns fan posted Saleh head coach, McDaniel offensive coordinator type thing. I mean, that'd be a
Yeah,
good
that makes
duo.
sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, whoever hires Salah is gonna bring him in, I think. That's just my takeaway.
Hmm.
Because I don't like all these fans think it's like, hey, he's gonna become head coach. He's got to have a relationship with
You
your
know
head
who I
coach.
wouldn't hate getting McDaniel is Tennessee. I think he'd do a lot of good for Cam Ward, who doesn't have a lot of quick passes in his game
So
right now and a lot of easy throws. I think kind of a hybrid of what he does with Tua and allowing Cam Ward to be Cam Ward and let his talent show at times. That'd be a good combination. I think that would help with his development. And then you have Robert Saleh take on that defense and try to turn them into a better unit.
oh, okay. Yeah, so you're saying Salah head coach, then
Yeah,
McDaniel
Saleh head
would
coach. Often
okay,
McDaniel
yeah.
won't get a head coaching job next year.
Yeah, I don't think so either. He's got to wait, kind of like Josh McDaniels. But it wasn't as bad as Josh McDaniels. But you understand what I'm saying? Yeah, he
Yeah.
can run an offense, man. He knows what he's doing, and he's gonna get another shot next year. It's just a matter of what team.
Yeah, 100%. It'll definitely be interesting. Well, guys, this is going to conclude our episode of our Thursday night football reactions. Make sure you drop your biggest and hottest take down in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button for more Blitz Angle content. And me and Dan will catch you guys next time.